Life and death are of supreme importance. Time swiftly passes by and opportunity is lost. Each of us should strive to awaken, take heed, do not squander your life. So this Gatha has always resonated with me. Um, I remember when Tim Buckley passed away. For those who do not know, Tim was a priest, and his death for me was unexpected. I still have a memory of Tim after he passed away, and this Gatha etched on a Han was pictured with him at his funeral. Now, every time I hear this Gatha, I am reminded of Tim and his nobility in death. I also recall chanting this Gatha after many seshins and how it resonated with me, but it did not really take heed, or I did not take heed of it. Here I am on the cusp of turning 60. Time has swiftly passed by. I believe that I had made a devil's bargain to avoid suffering for as long as I could. This is otherwise called denial. But you can only whistle past the graveyard for so long. How foolish to rationalize or deceive myself in thinking that I could escape from suffering, thinking that I could outrun impermanence by clinging to hope and ridiculous rationalizations, thinking that I had hit the pause button on the Four Noble Truths. As I have aged, I have experienced a loss of strength and vitality, which were cornerstones of the egoic bedrock of my youth. I take a multitude of prescription medications every day. I've lost my hair and my youth. But is this a bad thing? Understanding my true nature and the nature of all things has given me deference for the things I still have, and dare I say it, an aspiration to accept change and not cling to history. Impermanence is such a hard subject to grasp. I tend to gravitate toward the tangible and what is known and steer away from the mystery of change. However, I have been working towards acceptance, understanding that I am aging, and most of all, accepting that I am not in control. I hear many Dharma teachers speak of radical acceptance. And I wonder, is it that easy to flip a switch and accept that everything is changing, everything is dying, and everything is being reborn? The paradox for me is, how do I transcend form and emptiness and go beyond? How long must I sit zazen to walk in the path of Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? As I am told, I am already on the Bodhisattva path and that I am a Buddha. So how do I radically accept this? How do I integrate reality into my delusion? Suzuki Roshi said, life is like getting onto a small boat that is about to sail out to sea and sink. And I love this quote by Roshi. I love its hopelessness, its directness, its unavoidable call to awaken. Knowing that form is form, this is observational from a relative perspective, and impermanence is an undeniable truth as we transition from emptiness, transition to emptiness. And this can also be observed every day. As I have aged and deteriorated physically, I have developed an appreciation of what is here now, what is not caught in the flux of form and emptiness, Perhaps my radical acceptance is fleeting through my acknowledgement that this moment is all that exists, transforming all myriad things into a common understanding that is beyond conceptual thought. Dogen said, when we discover that the truth is already in us, we are all at once our original selves. Suzuki Roshi retold the story that was originally told by the Buddha. It is said that there are 4 kinds of horses, and I'm sure all of you have heard this before, but I love this story. There are 4 kinds of horses: excellent ones, good ones, poor ones, and bad ones. The best horse will run slow and fast, right and left at the driver's will before it sees the shadow of the whip. The second best will run as well as the first one does, just before the whip reaches its skin. The third one will run when it feels pain on its body. The fourth will run after the pain penetrates the marrow of its bones. You can imagine how difficult it is for the fourth one to learn how to run. I had always interpreted this to mean that the horse that runs at the shadow of the whip is the best horse. I interpret this quite literally as I should train to be the best or the best horse. However, my Zen journey has always felt to me as if I was the worst horse. Understanding has come slowly to me, and at times I have been deluded in my life and in my practice. But Roshi has given me great hope because his Dharma talk, he goes on to say, when you are determined to practice Zazen with the great mind of Buddha, you will find the worst horse is the most valuable one. In your very imperfections, you will find the basis for your firm way-seeking mind. So thank you, Roshi. Thank you for your compassion. It's truly boundless, because I never thought being the slow horse had any benefit in my Zen practice. So when I first began my practice, I imagined that my quote unquote Zen ascension would be grandiose and breathtaking, and my attainment obvious to all. To my surprise and relief, I find my practice to be scintillatingly mundane. This is a path to austerity through attrition, shedding excess, not clinging, shedding my attachments and being less, not more. I'm beginning to realize that there's nothing to gain, nothing to lose, nothing squandered, nothing to attain, and there is much to give away. There is nothing to cling to. There is really nothing. Only this breath, my Zazen, and Dharma. Dogen said it best: the time of our delusion does not obstruct the time of our realization. Our practice is not in order to attain realization. Practice itself is the actualization of realization. Thank you. Okay.
Sandy? Sound. Not yet. Still not. No, no.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay. I don't see you, Spencer. You've jumped to another screen.
Oh, did I?
Yeah. When you stopped talking, you went back to your other spot. I want to thank you for your talk. It's something Um, Aging is something that has, hit me hard too. Um, Everything, like you say, my previous life, even though I suffered in places and things, was a gift. As I aged, I became more and more obsessed with, you know, I'm going to die and I don't want to die. And then I started practicing Zen and I realized that, nothing's permanent and we all die. Whether we're reborn or not is another thing, but it would be nice. Um, but I turned 77 this year, and my dad died at 70 and my mom at 80. And I keep thinking the clock is ticking so fast that how was I going to get through this? How was I going to relax and live with this? And then the more I thought about it, I realized that all I had to let go of, was just to let go of this feeling of anxiety that I'm aging, and actually try to enjoy it, because there really was nothing else to do, to conquer this, because it's inevitable. We're all born, we live, and we die. And your talk really, hit me on the head that somebody even that young, 60, can be having the same kind of thoughts that I have at 77. So keep on doing what you're doing. You seem to be doing a really good job, and you're having a realization, that's hitting you early rather than later. Um, so that's a blessing too. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris? Chris,
Yep.
you have your hand raised?
Yeah. Had to lower my hand. Just wanted to say thank you for the comfort.
Oh, you're welcome. Jane?
Spencer, I really did enjoy your talk today. Thank you so much for it. Especially, I thought the ending of your talk was really good. It was a kind of talk that raised the hairs on the back of my neck. It was so good. So thank you for that experience. I think it's so true. Everything you said was really good. But thank you.
Thank you. It really raised the hairs on the back of my neck when I was writing it.
The ending of it was stronger than the beginning and the middle. It was amazing. It was really good.
Yeah. Thank you. Mark?
Yes, wonderful talk. Wonderful talk. Yes, the years go by. If we sit around and we count and watch the days fly off the calendar, we could never feel like we can gather up those moths that keep flying around and pulling us into a whole nother realm. But I've always been the worst horse too, even though in my mind I always want to be the best. And I know it's the pain. I think it's the pain into our marrow that makes us know that we can't be the best horse. We can't watch for the shadows. We can't be all that good, because as soon as we think we're so good, there's something that blocks the shadow and we just forget the shadow, and then we still get whipped. But that's kind of a funny way to think about it. I know that, when I turned 60 and when I turned 30, it was kind of the same thing. I felt when I turned 30, I turned into a real adult, and I wasn't ready to be a real adult because not everything had happened to me that I wanted to have happen to me as a real adult. And then I got to 60 and it was like, wow, I'm going to be old, even though you're only as old as you think you are. And then it became like, wait, I'm getting old without doing all the things that I was supposed to have done before I turned 60. And it just seems to be a cyclical thing. Well, I passed 70 just recently, and it just felt as easy as ever. 70. If I thought, well, 7 is such a better number, lucky sevens, right? I suppose. But it does get easier as we wander into this landscape, well, of getting older, of letting things go. And it's not so much of letting, it's just not holding on to. They'll go, whether you let them go or not. And I think it's really a great time to grow and actually bring all that you've learned out to the world. And I hope to hear more great talks like that, Spencer. That was great.
Thank you. You know, my sister passed at 60, so you know, I'm coming up on that. And I think about that and, you know, mortality. And honestly, the first part of that Dharma talk was just, I really think I was deluded, or very much telling myself a lot of rationalizations about how my life was going to be, or how I can make it be, when I had no control over it. And really the only control I have is when I practice or sit in the moment. And that is a fleeting realization for me, but a really hard one to accept. And I think that the other thing is, you know, societally, I think there's so much delusion, you know, through the media and social media, that, you know, the basis for reality in this moment is even further obfuscated by this life we live. And at times I feel I fall victim to that trap. And, you know, it's only through grounding and practice I'm able to realize what's really so. So thank you. Yes, Jane.
I forgot something I wanted to mention. When I hear everyone talking about being aged and all, and I'm pushing 90 in 3 years, and I think, well, but to a 95 or 100-year-old person, they look back and say, what are you complaining about? But I just wanted to mention that, to put it in a different perspective, when I turned 16, I thought I was already too old for everything. And it was a real crisis for me to think I was 16 and I had nothing.
16 or 60?
16,
16,
16,
yeah.
yeah. And the other was when I was in a women's college and I turned 21, all the girls kind of pitied me because I didn't have a guy in tow to marry before I graduated. It was like some enormous failure. So those are,
Yeah. Time swiftly passes, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because people tend to see us as getting older, and there's a failure in getting older. Is there a week to even buy into it ourselves? And really, it's truly that getting older is really the success story that everyone gets to, almost everyone, not everyone gets to achieve. And just being older is, I guess, with all its problems, are great, is actually a great blessing. And I'm glad you brought this all up, Spencer. It's pretty cool.
Steve?
can't hear you. Can't hear you, Steve.
Okay. I'm getting old. I couldn't find the button. Anyway, Spencer, thank you so much. I've never really talked to you or heard from you, and that was just a wonderful synopsis of Zen, and I really, truly appreciate that. And I was thinking about my dad's going to be 96 here March 3rd. And he, for years, has played the ukulele. And he tells me, I go to the old people's places to play for them. And I said, Dad, you're 96. You are. Either he's in total denial. But I also tell him you're a freak of nature, too, because he still drives. He still has all his wits. It truly, truly is amazing. So we never know what is going to transpire in our age. People say, oh, your dad's 96. That means you got good genes. I don't know. I know how I feel at 67. I just wonder what he feels like at 96. I sent him for Christmas, for a birthday card, a sympathy card one time, and he loved it. So anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rachel, your hand was up at some point.
Yes. Thanks, Spencer. Thank you very much. It reminded me of the Sandakai in the very last line, or last two lines. I respectively urge you who study the mystery, do not pass your days and nights in vain. Not
Yes.
like Graham, but just as true. And thank you very, very much. And
Thanks,
everyone
Rachel.
else too. I wanted to say though, I guess I'm certain it was in your mind, even if it was not alluded to when you talked. But the experience of others going through the kind of suffering that you're referring to me is a startling. It's like being with someone as they die, which I have done, my mother and other, truly. And I mean, it's just startling. I don't mean empathy, but that awakening of a sensibility you don't acknowledge unless you're hit the wall yourself. But when you're with another, it's an intonation and acknowledgement of Dharma. And I actually, for myself, have found, I've been through quite a few medical emergencies, and that actually experiencing something was always so much better than what I thought about it. In other words, real suffering, oddly enough, could be gone through and even appreciated, like saying thanks to the nurses and doctors, But if you sat there saying, gee, how would I feel if it's awful. But I have to say, I'm still muddled when I'm with others who suffer sometimes from everything you talked about and who are not coming to any kind of settlement about being the slow horse. And I really thank you for your talk.
Thank you. Yes. My dad's 95 and his dementia is to the point where he only knows my sister and I now. So he's forgot all his grandchildren and great grandchildren, and it, for me, reconciling with that and, not projecting onto him and being compassionate with, his diminished state, like I'm complaining, he can't even get out of bed. And, that really humbles me. So thank you.
Yes, Spencer. That was you did good, man, and that was a very nice talk.
Thank
But
you.
I think a bunch of you are old fogies. You're much too old. When you get older in the Dharma, you actually get younger. So you can look forward to that. 'Cause you really do. You know, being old. I mean, I joke to myself, like, well, I got myself came in here. But anyway, I have, at any time in a day, there are 5 or 6 places that could be painful. But you know, it's all real minor. I mean, in my case, it is true minor stuff. It's nothing big. But you know, the practice is a matter of getting younger. Not that I'm a good example of it, but it is true, because you slough off all of the oldness in yourself, all of the karmic consciousness that you have, which I still have with the courses just as well. But you know, things get better as well as getting worse. So thank you all for being here. Rachel.
I just wanted to say, because I was referring to that which is essential, which sounds grim, but I'm afraid I have to agree with what Peter said, because like I said, when I've really gone through really severe stuff, I come out of it so grateful, you know. In other words, really going through it. I mean, I didn't complain like, oh, this is terrible, even though it was terrible. Really living, and whatever that radical acceptance always sounds so good. It's sort of like an ad, and I always want to say I'll buy that. But I can say, and I'm 77, or I will be, Sandy, that I feel more present and grateful, and just I don't know, everything is worthwhile. So I just want to say that if I did sound sort of a downer, I meant going through that, like in reference to your father, going through everything has brought me closer and nearer to forgetting about myself once in a great while. So thank you, Spencer.
Thank you. One other thing, you know, it makes me think that, you know, I was terribly depressed when I started my Zen practice. So, you know, I consider that a time of great loss. But if I had not had that loss, I don't think I would have had the foundation or the desire to sustain. So I think through these losses, you know, somehow it deepens our practice. You know, I otherwise, I think without, you know, those dark nights, maybe, you know, I would have a superficial practice. I really think that, you know, loss is humbling, but also gives me great insight into this condition. So thank you.
Okay, everybody, it looks like it's gotten to time for service.